The Last of Us is some of the best visual storytelling streaming this year. Episode 3 more than worthy of the title most emotional episode on TV in a long time. And episode 4 providing a cliffhanger to what could be yet another faithful rendering of a heartbreaking story. All week, I'm thinking about this series and anticipating the next episode. Obviously, the story is what makes this show so breathtaking and heart-wrenching, while stellar performances, costume design, and production design just add to the rich flavor. Hi, my name is Josh, and this is my Cinemotive design series, where I look at some of my favorite movies and shows, and the cars that our favorite characters use on their journey. Today, let's talk about Bill's 2001 Chevrolet S-10. The Chevrolet S-10 is one of those crappy trucks that exist and persist somewhere in the depths of everyone's subconscious. The S-10 was the first car I bought with my own money. It had a corroded brake line, and so it became the first car project I ever tried. It was a good driver for inner-city travel as I drove to campus and back during my college years. One of my students bought one last year and has been really proud of it. Sometimes I wonder about how much my students spend on their vehicles, but at least wrenching on vehicles is a little safer hobby than many alternatives. The point is, likely you've owned one or known someone who's owned one, but very few still exist as anyone's daily driver. At least there are few around who still want to use it as daily driver. So what makes this truck, specifically a 2001 crew cab Chevrolet S10 with the LF6 V6 engine, so special to Bill that he never swaps it or upgrades it to a more luxurious model trim? 20 years is a span of time in which we could reasonably guess that he could replace the S10 with any other vehicle of similar year and mileage, even newer. Let's talk about the technological sweet spot, and I really want to congratulate the showrunners here for picking an outbreak year that both mirrored our understanding of what a pandemic means, while also constraining the vehicles in the show to something feasibly realistic. There's a lot to be said about how the newer a vehicle is, the more technology and electrification a DIYer gearhead has to deal with. There's a lot of cool opportunities with this technology, and there are some amazing examples of small teams making a large impact with this advanced technology. But once you add up all the different computerized electrified fuel injection, braking and safety systems, and all the sensing technology that became all the rage in the late 2000s, early 2010s, you get a vehicle that is exponentially harder to work on by yourself. Bill had one of the newest vehicles on the market, the crew cab only becoming available to North American markets 2 years before the fungal outbreak. This survivalist character, nearing exaggerated zealousness, Bill became intensely familiar with his new S10 and treated it like a prize pony. With a well-kept fishing boat serving as a trailer, Bill would need the higher output V6 over the possibility of the inline 4. Mounted with that V6, he was lucky enough to get a higher space in the cabin, perfect for the narrative of one-man looting once evacuation and quarantine ended in the late summer of 2003. Which brings up our second reason for such a unique pick for a truck. The outbreak occurring in 2003 meant that there weren't many newer options to choose from. While the show has made the rare mistake, at least this truck won't be as egregious as The Walking Dead's Hyundai Tucson. 2000 to 2004 was a fairly dry period of time for trucks, as only a single truck model received next-generation status during that time, the Dodge Ram 1500. Even though the third generation of Ram pickup was introduced for the 2002 model year, there's a loyalty to the Chevrolet brand that's buried into the story, which we'll get into later. With that loyalty in mind, the Crew Cab S10 being the only new model introduction, or at least the only new configuration at the time, meant that Bill had the newest to market option of a familiar truck. And here's a fun throw to the video game model, which we'll talk about in an upcoming paragraph. The only truck to have a similar upgrade is the Nissan Frontier, which released an extended cab to North America for the same span of years, 2001 to 2004. The Nissan Titan was also newly introduced for the 2003 model year, but I doubt Bill would have had the interest to learn a new platform and engine just to have a new, inferior truck. It's a common story that got thrown around during my internship with Nissan, that Japanese Nissan engineers rebelled against their American coworkers and wanted to put a smaller engine in the Titan, not understanding the workers' needs or towing capacity. the 2003 Nissan Titan is an inferior truck to the S-10. Up through episode 3 and leading into the 4th, we've seen two kinds of trucks for two kinds of people. The strengths of those people are laid out openly during the lawn luncheon of episode 3. Joel's construction truck, the Chevy Silverado seen in episode 1, was much larger. Construction workers often drive co-workers as well as their equipment and lumber to the job site, sometimes trailering or racking for their equipment and materials. Nissan engineers would have only needed to visit a construction site or farm to see the needs of full-size truck users. As a survivalist, gosh, I wish we knew more from his backstory from the game or in the show. Anyway, as a survivalist, Bill only needed to look after himself in the beginning and worry about occasional equipment runs. The S-10 is more efficient than a full-size truck, which contributes as little fat to the character as possible while also providing utilitarian mobility. But compared to the video game, there's some amazing similarities beyond the color scheme. The best real-life replica of the in-game model is a second-gen Chevrolet Silverado. I'd stake my reputation on it. The shifter from the Silverado bench seat combination is a perfect match on the tree. The instrument cluster and dashboard geometry match. The fender lines are a near-perfect match. The truck bed liner is the exact same as a stock Silverado. The tailgate's dynamic line is patterned from the second-gen upgrade. Lights are inspired by the real-life truck. There are just too many similarities for us to discount the connection. Some proportions are different, and the grille is absolutely not the same. The diagonal V-lines are more reminiscent of a Nissan truck's design, hence the cool connection I talked about earlier. A quick note is that the engine bay glimpse we get in the game has a configuration which is more similar to a Mopar truck than any other, but a lot of the accessory geometry is lost and fillers were added to make it feel like a complete engine housing. But just because Bill had the best truck body and engine pairing he could have hoped for during an apocalypse starting in 2003, doesn't mean he didn't spring for a few upgrades. This is the reason I've withheld this video until now, after the release of episode 4. I wanted to see if we'd get more information from the series before dropping a video of facts. We could have gotten more. The hope was that we'd see more on screen before it got destroyed. From the glimpses we get from our couches, we can first prove that it's indeed the V6 option. The engine bays are different between the two options, but where normally you'd see a flex hose from the intake box to the manifold, Bill has swapped out the stock intake for a cold air intake system from what looks like Engine's product line, but honestly you could find similar looking intakes from any aftermarket supplier. Bill has also crafted a battery pack that can be disassembled and stored to minimize the sulfation which occurs naturally over time. While I'm sure Joel was bummed out when the battery wasn't ready to go, I bet he appreciated Bill just a little bit more for having the ingredients stored close by. Further modifications include the tape player, which is not standard beyond 1997. CD players began to replace the tape player in Jimmy's, Blazers, Sonomas, and S-10s in 1998. He hunted down another older GM vehicle and took its tape player. The stereo head is still OEM, so that he could listen to Linda Ronstadt and Hank Williams while fending off the foreboding future. A perfect swap since anti-theft devices on radios didn't become popularized until 1996. The final Easter egg provided through episode 4 is the inclusion of the siphon. Where the video game provided a black siphon versus the clear one we see, it's still a siphon, though it does beg the question on why Bill didn't go through the menial trouble of getting a siphon with a safety backflow valve, or at least fabricated one. Not everything can be as perfect as Boston Geography, I guess. Along with all that information about the vehicle that HBO has been so kind to share with us visually, there's also just something very powerful and sentimental about this truck. Bill loved it.
Paying attention to things. It's how we show love. This is my street too. Just let me love it the way I want to.
He took an extreme amount of care for this truck. He rammed through a gate, and 20 years later, those scars are non-existent. He disassembled the battery, taking it out of the truck so it wouldn't eat at the rest of the frame. He covered the body while it was inside of his garage. I've only seen this level of care for a vehicle on sports cars, hardly something you'd see from an S-10 owner. Regardless of whether an S-10 was the perfect car for Bill or not, he chose to love it his own way. There's a powerful lesson out of this. You don't fall in love. Yes, Frank fell in a hole stumbling into love, but you don't fall in love. You choose to love. You choose to express love to your partners of all shapes, kinds, and types. We can wish a Silverado or F-150 or 1500 on the man, but he loved his S10. So here's the ultimate message from the video. Choose love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.